This Donald Trump stock market should not be surprise to anyone unless you have had your head in the sand like an ostrich the prior 8 years before this, or I would say the 20 years prior to this. If you were not informed and only believed propaganda, then you had the belief that Donald Trump was a great businessman and would do good for America's economy, even
his federal tax form, the 1040 for the years 1985 to 1994, represents the fullest and most detailed look to date at the president's taxes, information he has kept from public view. Times notes that the information does not cover the tax years Congress is now seeking. Continuing from the story, quote, the numbers show that in 1985, Mr. Trump reported losses of $46.1 million from his core businesses, largely casinos, hotels, and retail space in apartment buildings. They continued to lose money every year, totaling $1.17 billion in losses for the decade. In fact, year after year, Mr. Trump appears to have lost more money than nearly any other individual American taxpayer, the Times found when it compared.
though he tanked the economy after COVID, prior presidency, again, you still fell for the rhetoric that Donald Trump was a good businessman and his policies has reacted to the loss of trillions of dollars to American households' savings. Let's see. How you doing? My name is Antonio. My current page is Unapologetically Black with the Facts. What I want to say to you is Donald Trump tanking American economy is only a surprise to those who are ignorant enough to have their head in the sand throughout his prior presidency. But I have myself have stated clearly that Donald Trump was not a great businessman, and I have printed and placed videos on this page over more than a year ago showing how bad of a businessman he is. This is the indexes: the Dow Jones, S&P 500, NASDAQ, small cap. Only thing up, S&P 500 VIX. That's volatility index. So that's why that's up, because there's too much volatility. Everything else is pretty much down on the stock market. Thank you, Donald Trump. But this should have not been a surprise to nobody in America unless you had your head in the sand like an ostrich. But they have dumbed down Americans to the point that hindsight isn't even 2020. And here's an example of what I was talking about. Let's see. This is an old YouTube page of mine. And now I'm going to the videos that will show you what I mean when I said it had been established that Donald Trump was a bad businessman.
His results with detailed information the IRS compiles on an annual sampling of high-income earners. His core business losses in 1990 and 1991, more than $250 million each year, or more than double those of the nearest taxpayers in the IRS information for those years.
Donald J. Trump had a long history of failures and bad business practices prior to him ever running for White House. So for us to elect Donald Trump in office, that means we asked to bankrupt America. And Donald Trump is the exact reason why we have such a high deficit, and that deficit is tied to inflation. I'm getting to it. Bear with me now. That's how old the video is. Right here. This over a year old. Donald Trump's 6 bankruptcies should have indicated he would create a $73 billion deficit. So his actions in his prior presidency that led to a increase in the United States deficit should have...
Burdened by debt, the Taj would not turn a profit. By that winter, as Rothman predicted, the casino was in serious trouble.
His business condition was terrible, worse than terrible. We were in a deep recession and people weren't going to Atlantic City. So the revenue stream from Atlantic City, the Taj Mahal and the other casinos was poor.
Trump's other investments had not fared much better. The Plaza Hotel, a financial disaster. The airline Trump Shuttle was bleeding money.
He sort of blamed the people around him for what went wrong instead of himself.
He started blaming people, he started firing people, started yelling at people. He said, I can be a screamer, and he certainly was, according to various accounts.
Trump had long cast himself as a winner.
If we believe, like Trump did, that his record as an entrepreneur would be an indication of how he will perform as president, then why again would we elect a person who is continuously in bankruptcy? How would he be identified as a person that will believe to make America financially great when he come from wealth and have financially ruined himself? Showing you that he is not a good businessman, because no businessman set out to lower the amount of income his business collects. This is what Donald Trump did with his tax
As we continue to watch the markets, which are falling, we were the first ones last week to extricate and bring out the problem about the deficit last week. And since that time, the Treasury Department released the nation's monthly bank statement, cover the children's eyes, if you will, showing America $779 billion in the red for fiscal 2018.
And under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, TCJA, the highest marginal income tax rate has been further decreased to 37%. Passed at the end of 2017, the TCJA continues to provide large tax cuts to the country's wealthiest individuals. Even foreign investors reap considerable more benefits from this law than middle and low income wage earners in the United States.
Folks, that's a 6-year high and a 17% increase over the $666 billion deficit recorded last year. The alarm clock on the debt clock ringing louder and louder as it skyrockets above $21.6 trillion. Remember, you're really not supposed to run deficits during strong economic times, which is what we have here.
As a result, the TCJA has made the American tax system less effective at securing national revenues from the people most able to provide them. According to a new analyst from the Institute for Taxation and Economic Policy, the National Treasury will lose $324.2 billion in revenues with tax breaks distributed as shown in Figure 1.
Actually, just a couple of days ago, Mick Mulvaney, the budget director, said America's booming economy will create increased revenue. However, corporate tax receipts, the taxes that corporations are paying, are at a 75-year low because they did get a big tax